Hi guys, in today's how-to video I want to explain how you can use first and third person video to improve your performance during practical shooting training and matches. So why would you use video footage to improve your training or match performance? Well, in the ideal world, and if you would ask professional trainers, coaches or shooters what an ideal training match curriculum would look like, I'm pretty sure the following elements would be repeated often. 2 to maximum 3 competitors with an experienced coach who's not only experienced and knowledgeable, but who can also identify strengths and weaknesses and to provide instant feedback to the competitor so that the competitor can immediately correct it in the next drill or the next stage. They will shoot 2 to preferably 3 times 3-hour live fire sessions per week, shooting approximately between 300 and 350 rounds per training session, and on top of that would train 3 to 4 dry fire training sessions per week. Now if you hear this you will say, okay, this is all very nice, but life isn't optimal, training isn't optimal, matches aren't optimal, again life isn't optimal. We have to consider that we are restricted in time that we can actually spend to our sport. We have monetary constraints, especially with the increasing prices of guns and especially ammo and reloading components. And also we don't have a range that we can go to anytime we want, so there are restrictions onto that too. Another element that is important and different from the ideal optimal context is that the number and the level of competitors is different. Oftentimes there are a lot of members in the club, all of them want to train. We cannot segregate the bad from the good shooters, so it's a mix of everything. And also I think most of the clubs train with between 5 and maybe even 12 competitors per training session, so that's also different from 2 to 3, which already impacts the time you actually shoot and the number of rounds you fire downrange. Also a challenge for a lot of clubs is oftentimes you have somebody who acts as a coach, who has the motivation and certainly the ambition, but who does not always possess the experience, knowledge, or the capacity to identify and also to communicate different issues to the shooters on the spot. So that's also a challenge that clubs are facing. So what's the next best thing? Well, the next best thing is to use video footage, both first person and third person footage and views, to analyze and review and optimize your performance afterwards. I do have to say, one of the big benefits of having an experienced coach next to you on the range is that you get instant feedback and you can correct immediately during the next drills and or stages, contrary to video, because you could say, well, I will record my drill and or my stage and I will look at the footage immediately thereafter, but then you are again detracting that time from actual shooting, especially live fire on the range. But in most instances, as is with myself, you will review and analyze the video footage after the training session, oftentimes 1 or 2 days later, to analyze, edit, and learn from it. So that's something that you need to consider if you use video. Why is video so interesting? Because it can help you to either analyze if you use it for others. For example, from time to time I do analyze video footage of other shooters if they ask me to do so, but I mostly use it to self-analyze, to learn from it, to improve, but also to store the footage, and I use YouTube and my YouTube channel as a platform to do so. Others and other coaches, trainers will recommend to use a training log, which is fine. I actually also have a training log, but my primary means to record the evolution and the lessons learned, positive and negative, is actually the video footage of my trainings and my matches. So I store it online, and I opted to also share it with the wider shooting competition community, hopefully also inspiring them as far as the drills and the stages are concerned. So myself, I film all of my, or most of my IPSC trainings, both for my handgun as well as for the PCC or the low velocity rifle. I video most of the level 1 matches I participate in because I'm in multiple clubs. It's not always feasible, but the vast majority I actually film because the context actually allows it. But I actively chose not to film level 2 or level 3 matches anymore because it detracts from my focus on match performance, efficiency, visualization, and so forth and so forth. I mean, there are a lot of things to consider when you are shooting level 2 or 3 matches. Initially, I actually filmed level 2 and 3 matches, but I noticed that it influenced my flow negatively, and that's why I actually stopped filming level 2 and 3 matches, so I can 100% focus on the match visualization, making sure that everything is okay and not bother with, for example, is my camera on, are they both on, are they placed correctly, detract some time during my final walkthrough to install the cameras and so forth and so forth. So I actively chose not to film level 2 or 3 matches anymore. I also think that you can learn much more from your trainings and your level 1 matches that you can improve on for level 2 matches than you can learn from level 2 and level 3 matches. Not that you cannot learn from it, on the contrary, but the focus should really be on match performance and not so much on getting the footage afterwards, either to self-analyze and or to post it online. But again, that's a personal choice. So what do you need to film your training sessions and or your matches? Before I get into that, I really want to underline that I'm not sponsored in any way, shape or form, not by any companies, not by any products that I'm gonna show and or discuss. I personally use a GoPro 8, if I'm not mistaken. They're already at the GoPro 11, but I still use the 8. It gets the job done. Price quality wise is very good. I have a couple of SD cards with 128 gigabytes of capacity that I switch out, and I also have a cheap tripod which I mount my GoPro on for my third person view, and I also have a GoPro 8 mounted on my cap for the first person view. There's a whole bunch of different products that you can buy, low end or very expensive, that is generic use or specifically for the shooting community, like the aim cam, for example. Insta360 has a whole bunch of products that you can either mount on your head or that you can mount on a tripod, for example. A lot of people actually use their own or third-party cell phones, and then the footage is transferred to one another. I mean, you can go as crazy as you want as far as products and or budgets are concerned. I want to keep it low down and dirty. That's why I, over the past years, still have used and intend to continue to use the GoPro 8. Another very important element as far as filming is concerned is some type of video editing software. You can go open source, which is free, but oftentimes has limitations as far as the tools that you can use, or you can go to a licensed product. Myself, I chose for Adobe Premiere Pro. Gets the job done. It takes a while to get to know the program, but once you figure it out, it's actually pretty straightforward and it goes very fast as far as uploading the footage, as far as processing it, adding comments, voiceovers, text, images, and so forth is something that is quickly and easily done. Whether or not you want to use the videos for yourself, or if you want to share it with the wider shooting and or competitors community as you desire yourself. So basically that's all you need to film your training sessions and to process and analyze it and store it afterwards. So why do I use a third person and a first person view to film my trainings and or my matches? Well, first of all, the third person view actually gives a good overview of the entire stage, and you actually see me running all over the place. And the first person view actually gives you a good view on how you grip your gun and how you engage with the targets. So specifically, as I indicated earlier, I have a GoPro 8 with a cheap tripod, and I use that primarily to get third person footage. I specifically analyze my start position as well as any other type of position that I have to get into or out of on the stage. I also analyze how I draw my gun and if I get a good grip on it, if my position is correct. I analyze my movement on the stage to get into, out of, and in between the different target arrays all over the stage. I specifically use it also to analyze if I use the right techniques at the right time and if I do it correctly, for example reloads on the move or into position, for example. And I also try to use the footage to analyze the stage flow. So as far as stage strategy and execution is concerned, I use this footage to analyze if I have done the execution correctly, or if there are lessons learned that I can take on for my future trainings and or matches. The first person view, which is a camera mounted on my head, provides a completely different picture and view, which I use first of all to analyze how I hold my gun, if that's correct, not too much tension, for example, and also to analyze my recoil management of the shots under a variety of conditions. I also use the first person view to see if and how I transition in between target arrays and or targets. So am I doing it correctly? There's a lot of things you can actually conclude based on the first person view. I also try to look and especially also listen to the cadence or the splits depending on the distance and the difficulty level of the targets. So that's something that you can actually get out of the first person view. Once in a while we are faced with jams and or malfunctions during a stage. Also very interesting to see how fast I identify the problem and if I correct it in the right manner. And also important, what do I do with that trigger finger? Is it in or out? So also very interesting to see under stress what that finger does, and also how you can reprogram it based on the footage you see. And then that's why I also put it in between brackets. If possible, I will also check what my score was on a particular target or target array, especially the placements of the shots and or the hitting of hardcover and or no shoots, for example. But that's not really that important. The four others are the most important reason why I combine the third person footage together with the first person footage. Some people might say, well, I only use first person footage, which is perfectly fine, but I do think that you exclude yourself from a whole bunch of very interesting other parameters that can help you improve your performance. Same but reverse, you have people that never take first person footage but only film themselves from a third person perspective, which again is fine if you want to do that, but as before, you are excluding yourself from a whole bunch of very interesting data that you can use to analyze and also improve your performance in later sessions. So that's why the combination of both I really recommend if you are serious about improving your performance using video. I want to make a quick but relevant sidestep because imagine that you can actually film from a first and or third person perspective your training and or your matches, but you don't have the time nor, for example, the experience to analyze the footage in order for you to identify what went well and where the areas of improvements are. You can actually turn to a company and or coach. Specifically, I think most of them are located in the US. You can contact them and then you can actually send them your first and third person footage to. They will review it, they will edit it, they will add on a whole bunch of errors and drawings and so forth and so forth, but also a voiceover, and then they will edit the video and they will send it back to you, which is or might be also valuable. I've tried several of them. I had to pay between $10 and $50 per clip, which means that if you have a stage and you have third person footage and first person footage, if you want both analyzed, some consider it as one, others consider it as two different video clips. It ranges between $10 and $50 per clip that you actually send into them, that they invest the time on to analyze, edit and send it back to you. Some I was impressed by the feedback I returned, others I was underwhelmed, honestly, because the product I got back and the feedback I got back was not that interesting and was not worth the money, honestly speaking. That's why I just wanted to put out there that companies, coaches exist primarily in the US, where you can actually send your footage to and they will do the analysis for you. Price quality wise, there are very good analysis in there. There were others regrettably that were not that good, but know that the service exists. One final note for those competitors who actually film their level 2, 3, 4, 5 matches in IPSC and USPSA. In IPSC, there was a recent rule change that states in Rule 11.1.5 that audio and or video recordings may be accepted as evidence in the appeals process if there's a dispute. But in USPSA, the current rules clearly state that photos, audio and or video recorders will not be accepted as evidence. I thought this might be very interesting to those shooters who actually record their matches.